Hello everyone, this is Seth. I'm going to actually cover some of the Shiquipment, the shit that we use in Shiplosion. And this is actually a new combo amp I just got for my bass guitar. I did have a Ampeg 8x10 cab. That was a nightmare to get anywhere. I have this crap in a basement right now, so trying to get that thing up the stairs from the basement, evil. So the day before the show with another band, I went and grabbed this guy. It's a Fender Rumble 150. I got it because, well, it was cheap. I thought, hey, I'm going to do this one show, and then screw it. I'm going to just take it back to Guitar Center or something the next day. But instead, played the show, and it sounded great. Got a lot of compliments from a lot of people, so decided to keep it because it's really lightweight, really easy to get around, and it sounds good. Doesn't sound great. Doesn't sound like 100% like top notch. Like this is the best thing that's gonna blow your brain off the planet, but it's a really good amp that can go on the road. Doesn't take up much room. So I'm going to go over some of the settings for this. I'm going to give you a bit of a close-up to see how everything works on it, and I'm going to play some of the sounds, and I'm also going to tell you about some of the crap I do not like about this amp. So stick with me for the next couple of minutes, and I will show you all about this little guy. So you can already tell, it has a 15-inch speaker. It sounds pretty good, and it actually has a good low-end response. Like I got a low B string in my bass, so probably can't tell through that shitty camera microphone, but it actually does a good job of getting the low end in there. So alright, I'm going to take you now and get a little bit close up and go through some of the settings on this guy. Okay, so here's more of a close-up right now. So, got the basics, volume, and this little guy is a negative 6 decibel input. I like pushing this in, especially if you have an active bass. The active bass already in your bass. If you already have if you put a battery in your pickup, then that will sometimes overpower the preprocessor. So usually this negative 6 decibels, I always pop it in. And then later on in the show, I'll tell you there's another reason I personally would choose to pop this in. Of course, volume. And amazingly, even for a little 150 watt amp, this thing is pretty damn loud. I have it really low right now because my neighbors will kill me if I turn this thing up. So I was able to tried out a drummer just the other day, and also played with a band at the Funhouse, and it worked great. And it was loud, more than loud enough, and I barely had to turn it up. So for 150 watts, it does a great job. So here's the next one that I'm not the biggest fan of, the overdrive. Let me see if I can get in there. Okay, so the overdrive is basically like a distortion. Turn that on. And so I got it set all the way to dirty here. Now if I turn the gain all the way up, to get the most overdrive possible, you can get a whole bunch of a distorted sound. And the blend here allows you to get a clean sound in with the overdriven sound. All the way back to the clean sound. That's take the gain down and So you get full blend here and just take the gain all the way down. See, personally when I play on stage, I don't use this. I have something else that gives me the overdrive I want. Now, another couple things that I also really do not use on this, but other people might find handy, is the shape knobs. You got punch and scoop. And let me actually go over here and just pan out and give you all the equalization here. There we go. So let me get all the EQ to centered, and we can hear how the punch sounds. So let's pop this in. Let's hear it before it. And this is, the punch is supposedly to bump up the low end. Then you got the scoop, which takes out all your mids and bumps the lows and highs. They say apparently this one's supposed to give you a... I don't know. I don't like either of these. I think they're horrible. So, brings me to the EQ, and here's something I really like about this guy. Usually things have like 3 EQ settings, and this one gives you 4. I am the type that loves to boost the lows, actually the mids. I found just playing around with bass and mixing that mids give more of the character of the bass guitar, even though the low end, it's just, you can pop as much low end as you want, but the character of the bass that kind of shines through and everything is in the mids. So give you 2 mids, which I like, a low mid and a high mid. From the book, I think this is around crap, maybe I should get the book, but I think it's either 400 or 700 hertz, whereas this one's like 1.2 kilohertz where it messes around with. So, but yeah, the EQ is really cool. I like the EQ on this. Get really super low end. Don't know if that comes across in the bass, but it's pretty beefy low end right there. And yeah, I like my mids though. So yeah, treble, cool. Anyway, now let's go over to these cool little bits over here. And so right here, effects loop, which is really cool for a cheapo under $400 combo amp. Give you a cool effects loop so you can route out to an effects processor, which I don't use. This one's kind of neat right here, where you can get an MP3 player or something and pop it in here, and you can play your bass guitar along with whatever you have on here. So if you're trying to learn a song, hey, you can just pop your MP3 player right there, good to go. If you don't want to bug neighbors, headphones, and the foot switch. This one's kind of cheesy. All it does is control the overdrive. So if you have the overdrive over here on, then you pop in a foot switch. So the foot switch, all it does is control the overdrive. So if you want distortion, you can just click the foot switch, which honestly, why bother? This overdrive on this thing is not that good. And really cool, you can do a direct out, which helps you out in a club situation. So if you like the head sound enough, then you can just plug into the PA system. And here's the other cool little nifty feature that I actually think does sound pretty good for this thing. It's the horn, and which I think is just a smaller little tweeter inside the cab, which gives it an extra punch if you're doing slap bass or whatnot. So that's how it is on, and turn it off. I don't know if it comes across in the mic here, but it actually does affect the overall character. You kind of subtly, but kind of gives it a different quality. So I like the horn. Always keep that one on. And of course, power switch. Alright, now let me get this camera set up, and I will tell you about what I do not like about this amplifier. Okay, I talked about some of the cool things on it, but here's the thing that really bugs me about this cab, is that first I thought it didn't have any compression in it, but then I found out they built the compressor inside it. So that means, and they don't give you any settings in order to control the compression. So I don't know if you could hear before, but sometimes it would just compress all of a sudden. So that's why I keep the -6 decibel thing off, because the compression is less likely to kick in immediately, but you can't control it. It just kicks in whenever it wants, and it can squash your bass sound. I don't know if you can hear it, but it gets even worse when you put the overdrive on, because then it really wants to just squash your sound. So if you want a lot of dynamics, like if you're going from slap bass, you know, and it's not that noticeable until you get a little bit louder, but I've noticed it because I usually go through something called SansAmp, and I have a little thing and it goes in there, and I like the way SansAmp sounds, so I pop it in there and let that do the pre-processing, and for some reason it compresses the hell out of the SansAmp. It just senses it, compresses it. So not an electrician, don't know why that's happening, but it just really irks me you can't turn off the compressor. So that's the one bad thing about this. But for the most part, it sounds really good. The only other bad thing is it doesn't have rear inputs, but that's a really just minor nitpicky bitchy thing. Everything's on the front, and you can't put like an input in the back, which I have another head thing where I do wireless stuff and a tuner, and I like to plug in the back, but what can you do? Everything's on the front here, which is just a problem for me. It might not be a problem for anyone else. So that is the Fender Rumble 150. I think it's a great deal. I was going to originally just buy it for one show just so I wouldn't have to carry heavy gear, and I'm going to keep it and probably use it for a lot of shows. So there you go. That's part one of the Shiquipment special. Get to see what we use when we play. Cheers.